Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco Dre Show, everybody. It's Tuesday, December 9, 2025. Thank you for tuning in today's show to hear all the relevant groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show wherever you might get your podcast. It's available now on all streaming apps for your listening pleasures. Be sure to share with some friends, family, whoever needs to hear the truth so we can make thinking great again here in America. Hope everyone's ready for the best hour radio has to offer. Uncensored and ready to go as always. Let's get down to business. Jasmine Crockett is actually going to be running for U.S. Senate in Texas. It seems that she has filed her paperwork necessary to do so, as this Breitbart article I have in front of me is stating to me. Yep, it looks like Jasmine's in for this long haul to become a U.S. Senator now. And why not get an upgrade? She's done such great work as a congresswoman. And her list of accomplishments adds up to absolutely nothing. You know, she's like Gavin Newsom in many ways. All talk, goes on all these podcasts, goes on all these news channels, spews nothing but nonsense, and then she wants to get an upgrade. And like Gavin Newsom, who wants to become president in 2028, Jasmine Crockett wants to become a U.S. Senator from the state of Texas. It's amazing to me. These people have no accomplishments. They can point to nothing they've done to make anyone's life better, but they always know the answer to everything, isn't it? Now, it's going to be a close race. She's going to be running up against this James Tallarico in the Democratic primary. Now, he's come out swinging. He raised about $6.2 million in the month of September alone, just after he announced. And it appears Ken Paxton is going to be the leading figure for the Republicans, obviously contending against John Cornyn and Representative Wesley Hunt, also of Texas. And he seems to be leading by a 5-point margin. Now, the Democrats roughly have Tallarico coming out, I think, by 6 points is what it's saying here. Yep, beating her by... Oh, she's beating him by 6 points. Well, again, he's the one that's pulling in all the money, so who knows? You know, usually the person that pulls more money tends to win here. It seems like she's coming out in the lead right now, all of a sudden. This is going to be an interesting race, though. First of all, we've never seen a Democrat win a U.S. Senate seat in Texas in 35 years. It's established itself as a red state, even with all the immigration that Joe Biden has ushered into us. Remember, he opened up El Paso, he opened up Brownsville and McAllen, all those sectors of Texas. And Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton were highly opposed to this. Ken Paxton went after the Biden administration for this, by the way. He's a solid guy. But it's interesting to me that despite all of the people that have moved to Texas, especially since COVID, all the people that have come in through the southern border that I'm sure are still in the state of Texas, which again should be a high focus and priority of the Trump administration, of course, in ICE and DHS, the state still, as of late, is a fairly Republican state still. Many people were saying in 2024, well, it's a purple state right now, again, people moving in and what have you. They're confident enough now, though, that in this redistricting, they're going to gain 5 seats. And they very well may win all those 5 seats that they anticipate turning red. We don't know this, but that's, again, what they're pushing for. And it seems like it will go forward that they're allowed to use those seats. But it's interesting. This Tallarico guy, I've never heard of him. He's a state representative. And he kind of has this preacher-like background. He's a former school teacher, and education is central to his platform. But his campaign slogan is, start flipping tables. So again, he's making a reference to Jesus Christ. And he wants to, this is what he's suggesting, for public school, he wants to increase funding for teachers, classrooms, and equitable access to education, whatever the hell that means. He's a strong opponent of school vouchers. That means Obviously, you can't pick where your kids go to school, so he wants you staying right where you are from. So that means I would have to imagine he's against charter schools, which is amazing to me. I'm looking at the people that have donated to him, and this big $12,000 block is from charter schools. It's interesting to me. Now, he's come out and saying that he wants to keep religion out of politics for good moral guidance only for himself. It's for his own faith, but he wants to keep it out of politics. Okay, well, I don't know why your slogan is referring to Christianity then. Look at this, healthcare and working families. He says the campaign messaging emphasizes returning power to working people rather than corporations. But here's the kicker for him. He's against gerrymandering, voter suppression, all that other things that, Democrats pretend to be against. Okay. But here's the thing. He's saying he's anti-corruption. He wants to focus on education. And he's for democratic reform. We don't know what any of those two things mean. We know what anti-corruption means, or so we think. Maybe he doesn't even know himself. He actually took $59,000. Get this. From Miriam Adelson. Yes, the same Miriam Adelson that President Trump spoke so highly of in the Knesset a couple of weeks ago. Right? She's worth, what, $60 billion? Owns the Dallas Mavericks. Owns casinos in Las Vegas. So he's anti-corruption. He's anti-taking big money. He's anti-corporation. But he's going to take money from Miriam Adelson. So in other words, he's a say something and does the exact opposite. Right? This is who this guy is. And Jasmine Crockett's no better, obviously. Again, we can't point to anything she's done that's made anyone's life in Texas any better. But a lot of the money coming into this guy is coming in from Act Blue, and I just find this funny. They've got all these names on here, and again, some of the names are repeated twice. So they're saying, well, Act Blue, small donations. We've known this charade. We know this scam here. They put the money in Act Blue. Act Blue then takes the money that, again, these people have donated several thousands, if not more, and they just chop it up and they shipped it on in. That's how this whole thing works. But I find it odd. $6.2 million in just 3 weeks. And I'm sure that number has grown since September as well. But Jasmine Crockett, again, is a name. People know her. She's all over the place. She's on this podcast, that podcast, this news channel. I mean, she makes a fool of herself every time. But Democrats tend to see her, so she's got that name recognition over Tellerico. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't think anyone gets past Ken Paxton, though. It's just not something that's going to happen. But it is interesting. It really is interesting. Now, she came out just yesterday with this campaign ad that she put out on X, and I'll let you hear it too. I mean, it made me crack up. I have no idea why you put this out. The ad begins with her from the side profile of her face, and I'll let you hear it.
How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her?
She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person.
Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man.
She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
That's it. That's the ad. Crockett for U.S. Senate, it says now on my screen. Jasmine for us. What has she done for Texans so far? She's almost done with serving 2 terms in the Congress. What has she written? What has she done? What has she implemented that has made anyone's life better? Can anyone point to anything she's done? Except raise more money? Run her mouth off on social media? On podcasts? On news channels? That's it. That's all she does. That's all. And now she's going to take on Ken Paxton, who's won 3 different statewide races. It's different winning a congressional seat than winning statewide office for U.S. Senate. Ken Paxton has proven, as of late, that he can get, almost 54% of the overall vote in the state of Texas, possibly even more now. So it's going to be a big challenge for her to go up against someone like him, who's very well versed. He has a track record he can point to for Texans to say, hey, look, I've done this for you. I wanted him to be Attorney General for the United States, not just of Texas. I think Trump really overlooked him in that regard. It'll be interesting to see how this whole thing turns out, if Crockett even does become the victor in this. We don't know. It's very early in the race, but it'll be very interesting to see how this all turns out. By the way, Ken Paxton, speaking of Ken Paxton, this was in the Washington Examiner. He actually just recently filed a lawsuit to prevent plans for a Muslim community in the state from advancing. So many of you might know there's different hotbeds in the state of Texas, Irving area, Dallas area, and of course, East Plano, which is in that same vicinity. And he's suing East Plano Islamic Center, known as Epic City, and kind of this spearheading this project they're doing, and really marking Republicans' latest effort to kind of thwart what they believe is to be a development, an area in the state of Texas, that could push Sharia law, which again is totally antithetical to everything that we believe as Americans. Now, the lawsuit centers on claims that the project violates security laws, specifically under the Texas Securities Act, and it kind of follows the state's GOP's persistent attempt to kind of block this Muslim development this year. And though the Justice Department struck a blow to the effort over the summer by declining to press charges, why they did that, I have no idea. How can you have a city in the United States that is based on Sharia law? Again, why is the Trump administration coming and said, listen, you're not doing this. You are going to assimilate to American values, not the other way around. Again, the leaders behind this epic city, so-called, have engaged in a radical plot now to destroy hundreds of acres of beautiful Texan land and line their own pockets, is what Ken Paxton said in a statement last Friday. He says, I will relentlessly bring the full force of the law against anyone who thinks they can ignore the rules and hurt Texans. The unlawful land project known as Epic City will be stopped, and those responsible will be barred from ever creating another fraudulent operation like this again. This guy is great. Why can't we have more Ken Paxtons? Why can't we have more people that actually give a damn about America? He could turn his back on this. He doesn't have to do this. He's standing up for you, the rule of law, American values. Can we say the same thing about Dearborn, Michigan? Well, I think not, of course. Well, I mean, look what a mess that's turned out to be. But is this really where we're going to go? We're going to have a city based in Sharia law? Where these types of values are going to come into the United States? And you think it's going to stop there? No, it'll expand. Believe you me, it will expand. And like any bad thing, it will continue to get much, much worse. But here we go. It says the latest action from the Attorney General's office comes after the Texas officials have prioritized efforts to block Epic City. And look at this. They want to have 400 acres, include more than 1,000 homes, a K through 12 based, faith-based school, a mosque, retail shops, and much, much more. Oh, what could that much, much more be, folks? Republicans are now raising concerns now that this new city could promote Sharia law, obviously. And of course, this Islamist legal system that imposes harsh penalties on those that do not follow the Muslim teachings of Allah, including targeting gays and fining or arresting women who choose not to wear a hijab or wear it loosely. Now, Governor Greg Abbott alike has come in and launched several investigations into the city in recent months, citing allegations that it could discriminate against non-Muslims. And, of course, in violation of the Texas Fair Housing Act. Yep. Look at this. Pose violations for various Texan consumer protection laws and operate illegal funeral services. So this is all new to us, obviously, as Americans, that these types of cities are popping up. Here's the problem with all this. When you bring in immigrants, whether legal or, as in Joe Biden's case, when you usher in 12 to 20 million illegals from 170 different countries, and you're going to put them on the government dole, and you say, well, you can do whatever you want. If you want to learn the language, go ahead. If you don't want to learn the language, go ahead. We have to have a standard. I've read to you before. I'm not going to read it again. Teddy Roosevelt on immigration. But to sum it all up, immigrants are supposed to be a positive to the society. There is only one country. It's America. Not where you came from. There's only one language, the English language. Not speaking in a Tower of Babel. Now, I understand people want to retain their culture where they came from. That's fine. If you want to speak your language inside your house, that's fine. What the hell do I care? And again, you should be proud of where you came from. But you are an American first. That's the idea behind it. That's what brings us all together. That's what unites us. If your bona fides are with where the hell you came from, how can you build a strong society? How can you build a community? You're not going to. And again, this balkanization of America has got to stop. Absolutely has got to stop. I don't know why the Trump administration hasn't come in and stopped this right away and looked into the people that are doing this. Again, this is not conducive to American society. Having religious beliefs are one thing. But this idea you're going to create this, enclave of simply Muslim values and Sharia law and kind of police your own way. We're seeing these things pop up all throughout America, folks. And it's going to be very detrimental should any of these things actually come to be. Again, look no further than Dearborn, Michigan. That's your sterling example for what a Muslim city will look like. And again, that's not a completely, I think it's just over 50% of the city is Muslim. But it's on its way. It's on its way to, again, becoming this kind of focal point and leading what could be Sharia law. And again, if you give them that opportunity, they will take it. You believe me. They've said this. They've said this in places of Europe. They said, we're here to stay. We're going to do this, and you will submit. How do you respond to that? When does it stop being freedom of speech and start saying, you know what, this is our country. You are the guest coming in, and we are not going to submit to this. This is a Christian-based nation. Now, yes, everyone can come in and believe what they want to believe. That's fine. But to subvert the existing society in Europe, in places like the UK, in France, in Italy, in Germany, in Denmark, wherever it may be, United States, Canada. How do you respond to things like that? That's what I'm confused about. How do we have a government that is supposed to protect our rights, supposed to protect our culture? Instead, what we have, we've done this for the last 60 or so years. We've ushered in people from the third world. They don't want to assimilate. They don't care about American values or American society or doing better in many regards. Again, look at the public school system of their major cities. Go look at it. Does that look like a group of people that want to make America better or worse? You tell me. You got to assimilate when you come here, folks. That's what the main requirement should be. That's in the oath of office. If people aren't going to follow this, we don't need immigrants. We simply don't need them. There is a net loss of gain in this whole situation. Because now you have to have English as a second language in public schools. You have to have people on government doles, right? You got to give money for housing. This is not conducive to a better society. What contributes to a better society is you come here, you work, you assimilate. You speak the language. And if you don't speak the language, well, hey, you're on your own. But we have street signs now in different languages? Again, go read Teddy Roosevelt on immigration. I think you'll see a much different America in that era. Just so you can hear that. Anyways, moving on. We got so much to cover today. I'm going to go over this article, too, in the Washington Examiner, and it kind of refers to what we're going over in terms of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and, of course, the fraudulent reports which give fiscal conservatives a boost in this fight over extending subsidies. That seems to be the big thing on Capitol Hill this morning. And they're pointing to kind of this situation now where there's this widespread fraud within the Obamacare program, and kind of as a tool now they could use to kind of thwart the temporary extension of enhanced premium subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of this fiscal year. So here's the GOP. They're coming out now saying they don't want to kind of extend the temporary added subsidies for Obamacare. And these plans, which are most likely to, according to a new report from the Government Accountability Office, which was pushed earlier this month, found that tens of billions of dollars in fraud, waste, and abuse and mismanagement in these Obamacare subsidies. Are we shocked? Should we be shocked? No, of course not. By the way, where the hell's Doge? We have all the government malfeasance, and look, billions upon billions of dollars in fraud, waste, and abuse, and Obamacare are able to just go the wayside? Again, this was a promise by Trump. I thought we were all behind. Get rid of the fraud, get rid of it, cut it out, so we can save money. I say we're wasting billions of dollars in healthcare that shouldn't even go to these people. Now, the GOP has been divided for a couple of weeks now over, again, whether to compromise with the Democrats on extending the Obamacare enhanced premium tax credits, which were passed by former President Joe Biden as a response to the COVID-19 relief measure. Now, again, without these premium credits, average out-of-pocket insurance costs for enrollees on Obamacare exchanges are set to double next year, with small business owners and, of course, early retirees too young for Medicare, of course, being hit the hardest. So there are people that genuinely need this program that are going to be struggling as a result of these tax credits are not extended. Now, the Democrats are coming in, pushing for a show vote, expected on Thursday of this week, for a clean 3-year extension of the subsidies, meaning that the bill does not include structural changes to the program. Again, to avoid the insurance affordability cliff for nearly 24 million enrollees. Well, we've got to get to the bottom of this fraud first, though. You've lost tens of billions of dollars, and that's not alarming to the people on Capitol Hill? Now, Republicans and the right-leaning Health Economist have argued for months that the premium tax credits, which are paid to the insurance companies to offset patient costs, are ripe for waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, absolutely. How could it not be? The whole program is a big joke, folks. Absolutely a big joke. Let's take a look at it, shall we? In 2010, when this whole thing came out, the Affordable Care Act, which was passed by Barry Honolulu, the employer-sponsored family coverage was somewhere around $13,770 per year. Again, this is a family coverage, right? Well, let's fast forward to 2023, right? This so-called Affordable Care Act should make things more affordable over time, right? Adjusted for inflation, of course. But here we go. The same family coverage was now $23,000, $968. It's unbelievable. Again, this is per year. That's a 74% increase in just 13 years. I'm sure it's much higher today in 2025. Now, how does that compare to a single coverage plan? Well, let's look at it. In 2010, you would have paid $5,000 per year as a single adult for whatever your program you were in. In 2023, you're now paying $8,000. That's a 60% increase in just 13 years. So clearly the Affordable Care Act isn't so affordable, hence why you need the government to help subsidize it. You'll love this too, by the way. In 2014, the government, which again makes up this difference in what you pay based on income relative to the federal poverty line that the government creates each and every year. So you get this 8.5% benchmark. You shouldn't be paying more than 8.5% of your income, right? So each year the federal poverty line changes, and again, so does what the government changes and what they dole out to these insurance companies. So in 2014, the government, under this new government-run healthcare program, paid out roughly $25 billion per year. Between 2022 and 2025, the government is now paying $130 to $150 billion per year. That's five-fold increases. Who do you think's paying that, folks? Who do you think's paying the money to the government? Well, you are, in taxation. Again, we all see this. All of us that pay taxes. Now, some of you say, well, hey, Jerace, the Trump tax credits, the cuts, we're paying less in taxes, we're still getting this wonderful health care. Well, here's the problem. Someone's got to pay for that. How do they do it? Because if they're not getting it through taxation, they're getting it from somewhere else. Where are they getting it from? Well, there's only one other way. If they're not going to do it through taxes, you got to go to the Fed and print more money, folks. And then from there, what do you get? Well, you get more inflation. Just look at inflation since then. You have less purchasing power now for you as an adult. for your family. Again, this is part of the scam. Again, the American people bought it hook, line, and sinker. As a result of this, now you pay more for lower quality health care. And of course, Barry Honolulu wanted to destroy healthcare, so this is a perfect plan. It becomes more unaffordable. And the sad thing is that the government shouldn't even be involved in things like healthcare, education, the federal government, I'm saying, housing, all these things. And again, what do you look at? What do you see? As a result, whenever the government gets involved, the cost for each of these sectors becomes much higher. That's what it all comes down to. Let's talk about the bigger problem, though, the elephant in the room with all this. The question is, why are the premiums going up so significantly? Why are people having to pay much, much more? Well, who do you think pays for the illegal aliens, folks? That's a good question. Who pays for them? What do you think? None of them are getting health care? Of course they are. And what did the government decide back in the Reagan administration? Well, if you go to the ER, if you don't have the money, they can't deny you service. Okay, now that's good on the merits, right? Sounds like a good thing, right? They're not going to come in there and say, please show us your insurance while you have a grave injury, right? They're not going to discriminate against you. Okay, that's fine. Here's the problem. When the illegal alien goes to the emergency room for whatever reason, right? They don't pay a thing because they don't have any money, so they have to pay anything. Somebody's got to pay for that service, though. Who do you think has to pay for that service? You, the wonderful American under the Affordable Care Act, or even if you're not under the Affordable Care Act, your premiums are going to start going up because someone's got to pay for that visit. And they might go and get a service, they might get a cast, whatever it might be, somebody's got to make up that difference. So you're wondering, hey, why are my premiums going up, up? They're constantly going up. They're supposed to be affordable. And now most people on the Affordable Care Act don't really see it. Because again, it's based on the benchmark of the 8.5. You won't pay any more than 8.5% of your gross income. Right? And it'll be divided up for that year. The government will make, obviously, the difference up. They'll pay for it. You don't even get to see it, and everything's fine. Now, of course, if you have other medical bills, for example, right, out-of-pocket bills, you'll have to pay those, which, again, those costs have gone up as well. But the Affordable Care Act is not affordable. And now we're finding out we have all this fraud in there. So get this. This month's new GOA audit of the Obamacare program outlined how the agency obtained subsidies on these plans for 23 out of 24 fictitious applications using fake Social Security numbers, amounting to more than 90% failure rate in existing fraud detection systems. 4 of the fake accounts established for plan year 2024 each paid $2,350 per month for subsidized Obamacare insurance, totaling out to roughly $113,000 for all 4 for the year. Now, the GOA didn't provide the cost estimates for the other 18 fake accounts that were paid in since 2025, since this year is not technically over. But now this watchdog agency audits also uncovered roughly $94 million in tax credits paid to officially deceased enrollees, as well as nearly $27 billion in improper payments here. Yep, somebody's getting rich off you, folks. And again, you're the ones that pay for it. Somebody's got to pay for that money that the government is now dishing out. Again, the government doesn't have any money of its own, folks. It comes from you, the taxpayer. So now conservatives have long maintained that the zero premium plans for those under the 150% of the federal poverty line created by the COVID-19 era subsidies have enabled dubious insurance brokers to enroll potentially millions of people without their knowledge. That's very true, by the way. So now the government's got to come together and say, what do we do here? What do we do about it? Do we extend these tax credits? What do we do? This is the problem. This is the big problem with all this. Do we continue this fraudulent program? What do we do with this? By the way, Trump can repeal this whole thing. He can say, I appeal Obamacare. Boom. It's gone. That's what can happen. He hasn't done that. Truthfully, I don't think he will. But the idea comes in again. I told you this before. with healthcare, with education, with housing. Whenever the government gets involved, it's always ripe for more fraud. Let the market work itself out. That's the way it should always have been. But every time there's a little bit of inflationary problems or some type of unaffordability, the government is first to come in and say, we'll fix everything. We'll do all this. And what do? Well, they either tax you more, as I said, or they print out more money. Now you have more dollar bills floating around. That leads to more inflation. That means less purchasing power for you. So again, I don't know that Republicans will cave on this. It looks like Senator John Thune, majority leader, has now said that the report is damning. To hear this, as he said during a speech on the floor on Monday, and said that the Democrat proposed clean extension of the subsidies would prop up a failed system. He's absolutely right about that. And he went on to say that we have spiraling health costs, a program incredibly vulnerable as a result of this evidence, vulnerable to fraud and abuse. And he says, and again, Democrats are proposing that we do nothing about it. No reforms, no additions, no safeguards, just billions more in taxpayer dollars, which again, I told you before, is probably just the Fed printing out more fiat currency. Again, adding to inflation. So it'll be interesting to see how this all works out, if they will prop this up, if they will pass this extension. The Democrats are obviously in the minority here, but they want to vote on this so they can obviously run back to their constituents. Now, there are some Republicans who understand that people in their districts are using this program. So there's got to be something with this. There's got to be something that comes as a result of this. The Biden-era protocols allowed for much more fraud and abuse. That's the end result of all this. So there's got to be something in place here to stop all of this. And one of the things that is they're trying to do now, Susan Collins and Bernie Moreno came out, both Republicans, would extend the subsidies for 2 years with decreasing income limits over time. By the way, anyone can apply for the Affordable Care Act, folks. You can be a millionaire and apply for this. Now, you're going to get less money added to your payments if you wanted a program like that, but anyone can really be in this program. You're just going to get less money. But here's what they want. They said they would extend subsidies for 2 years with decreasing income limits over time. But the bill would also eliminate zero premium plans by requiring at least a $25 a month payment, aimed at, again, curbing the incentive for fraudsters to enroll patients without their knowledge. So again, but here's the problem with this. If you're getting all this money back for services you're not even using a fraudulent, Social Security number, which again is never supposed to be used as an identification card or used for identification. If you're going to get back all this money, fraudulent money that you're not even utilizing, what the hell's $25 to pay every month? That's a problem with all this. Bill Cassidy, who I believe was a physician before he was a senator, and Mike Crapo of Idaho also reportedly are circulating a plan that would not extend the premium tax credits, but instead transfer the funds directly to health-saving accounts controlled by patients. But again, here's the problem. If you're going to have an account for somebody, and they say, I'm going to be using, Obamacare this year, okay? And you just throw this money in an account, let's say they never even use it. It's a legitimate thought. What if they never even use it? What if I don't ever go to the hospital? And I have money in this special account that I'm able to access. Now, will they make it so I can only use it in a transaction? I don't know. Are they going to give out a check? These things all matter. You say, well, if the check just goes out, controlled by the patients, or an account by the patients, what if these people aren't the people that set up these accounts? How do we check this? Again, we've seen it in voting. People that are dead voting, they're still getting ballots. And we see this now in healthcare. People that are dead are getting so-called benefits. Who's taking the money? Where's the money going? It's going in the wrong direction, folks. And again, it's only leading to higher premiums. This whole thing's got to be gutted. It's always got to be worked out. There should be more safeguards. There should be some more ways to, again, verify if you're using taxpayer dollars, who is using all this. Because what's happening is you're shoveling tens of billions of dollars to an insurance company through identity fraud. So this has got to stop, folks. And again, people that are paying taxes are paying for all this. So there's got to be more to this. Biden seems to have taken away all these safeguards. This has got to be an addendum. If they are going to extend this, there has to be some ways to prevent fraud and abuse, because that's what we're seeing right now. All right, moving on. What else are we seeing the government doing? What else is the government dishing out for? Well, the Wall Street Journal says that Trump unveils a $12 billion bailout for farmers. These are mostly crop farmers, mostly soybean crop farmers to be exact. And the package was unveiled at the White House on Monday afternoon during a roundtable with several farmers. Top administration officials have been discussing the bailout behind the scenes for months now. So much of this aid, $11 billion worth of the 12, will be in the form of a one-time payment through the Farmers Bridge Assistance Program, which helps U.S. crop farmers. The remaining $1 billion will go towards commodities not covered under the Bridge Assistance Program, is what the Trump administration has stated. So the aid will most likely go to help soybean farmers who have faced devastation financially, losses throughout this year. Farmers that have said that extra money would help pay down their debts from this year. And, of course, finance the crop planting of next year's costs. That would be beneficial to them. Now, I never advocate, of course, using soy in any stretch of the imagination, not even for feeding cattle. It is a phytoestrogen, but there are American farmers out there that harvest soybeans. I understand this. So, again, it's been a challenging year for many of the American farmers. Crop prices have remained low, especially after harvesting the largest crop record this fall. And again, for the first 9 months of 2025, there was farm bankruptcies rose to roughly 50% compared with the same period in 2024. So, we don't want this. We don't want people going bankrupt. We don't want people in massive debt to the banks. So now they're saying, well, Trump said this on Monday, said this relief will provide much needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops. We're going to make them so strong it'll be a golden age for farmers. Okay, so I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but we like the enthusiasm, don't we? Here's the problem with all this. Why are they not making money off this? Well, what we've seen as of late, we had a low crop price, right? The U.S. Department of Agriculture comes in and sets the price, right? The farmers have no say in this, even though they are the ones that produce the product. And, of course, they've had high production costs and loss of trade markets. And where's one of the biggest trade markets that we, as American farmers, export? Well, that would be China. But what happened this year with China? Well, we had the tariff wars going on. That was a big problem with all this. Now, the Trump administration's tariffs on China earlier this year cut Beijing's imports of U.S. soybeans from their usual 29 million metric tons of beans annually to zero until a deal was reached at the end of October. And again, China is one of the biggest buyers of soybeans, which feeds its massive pork industry. So roughly half of the American soybeans are exported each year, about a quarter of which goes to China. So imagine if that sector is now completely cut off. What are those farmers going to do? Well, they've got to either go find other countries to buy. Now, the rest of the soybeans are processed into oil for cooking or biofuels, which are used in things like diesel, and or for meal for livestock feed, which, again, I don't recommend. But this fall, farmers are harvesting their crops as the Trump administration said China had pledged to buy 12 million metric tons of American soybean this year and 25 million metric tons annually for the next 3 years. So it seems that number will uptick for American soybean farmers. And soybean prices surged to above $11 a bushel after this deal was announced. So the prices went up just slightly. But here we go. We have prices that come as a result, again, of the USDA. And again, when we see that we have these things like we have gluts of corn, we have gluts of soybean, after several years of bumper crops have depressed pricing, we have prices for things such as the production that are continuing to go up. So farmers aren't breaking even. That's the big problem with it. That's what we need to start doing. If prices are going down for milk, for crops, what have you, the people that struggle the most are the people that are producing these products, these raw materials. They're raising the livestock. They're cultivating the crops. And farmers are nervous now, though, that Beijing is not even going to hold up its end of the bargain. Others who sold their crops at lower prices, at, say, $9 a bushel, before the deal came with China, said it came too late. So there's all these things happening with, again, our trades, our supply chain issues, of course, or they simply don't have people buying like China did. That affects these farmers, that their livelihood relates to what's going on here. So, again, I hope that Trump can adjust these tariffs and we can get to the end of this and we have markets available for these farmers to, again, sell their product. But what we should do at home, and I've been saying this for quite some time now, what we should do at home, we should be working for ways to reduce the cost of production for farmers across the board. That's what should be done. That means the price of water, the price of food, or fertilizer, or what have you. It doesn't matter. This would be beneficial for American farmers, especially for small farmers. Because again, they're basing their product, what they produce, off of what the government is saying it's worth. So the government comes and says, well, it's $11 per bushel. Then they come and say, well, actually, it's $9. And that might not seem like a huge difference to us. But for a small producer, that absolutely is a big deal. Same thing goes with the price of milk. For every 100 pounds, it's only $18.21. So unless you have a very big operation, you're not really pulling out too much, especially if the cost of production to feed the cow, to pay for the electricity, to water the cows, all this. All these things come at a price, folks. Paying your property taxes. Again, you have large lots of land. Same thing goes with soybean or corn farmers or whatever it is. All these things come at a big price. So we've got to understand that with these low commodity prices, you think, well, this is great for me, but is it good for the small farmer? And that's why, again, the bigs get bigger and the small guys seem to get stamped out of this. So at least, in this sense, we've got farmers who are producing something for not only just the American people, but for, obviously, the world market for soybeans, corn, what have you. But we've got to find ways to make production more available, much more cheaply for these farmers, because these are the people we need to be looking at time in and time again. All right, moving on. Let's move on to New York City. Let's look at this article I have for you in the Gateway Pundit. It says Socialist Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani appoints a convicted armed robber to lead his criminal justice team in the Big Apple. Why not? Look at his team. It's a mess. Now, New York City's incoming socialist mayor already proving exactly why voters should be worried about all this. Again, most people that voted probably haven't even paid attention to this. But Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani has tapped a convicted armed robber to come help shape the city's public safety and criminal justice agenda. He might be familiar with this. 49-year-old Myson Lennon, I think that's how you say his name. He's a rapper, he's an activist, and he's a former Def Jam signee who spent 7 years behind bars for 2 violent taxi driver robberies. What a sterling individual. What a wonderful guy. He seems like just the person Mamdani can relate to. Don't you think so? Hey, maybe he could be the new police commissioner. Who knows? Maybe with standards this low, the possibilities are endless. Now, according to court records and reporting from Fox News, citing the New York Daily News, Lennon was convicted in 1999 for 2 separate armed robberies of taxi drivers. Yep. There you go. 1997, Lenin and his accomplices robbed cab driver Joseph Excree, smashing him in the head with a beer bottle during the attack. In March of 1998, prosecutors said that Lenin held up another cabbie, Francisco Monsanto, at gunpoint, stealing cash and a ring before fleeing into the dead of the night. God knows what they did with the buddy. Both victims took to the stand and identified Lenin as one of their assailants. He faced up to 25 years for the violent crimes, but ultimately served 7 years. At the time, his defense argued that he had no motive because he was writing songs for Lil' Kim and Mace. Ooh. Again, a genius in the making, right? So the announcement wasn't made in the City Hall press, but instead through an Instagram post from the radical socialist justice organization, Until Freedom, where Lenin was serving as a leader. This is so funny. This is ridiculous. Have you ever heard of anything so insane in your entire life? That the mayor of our biggest city in the United States has a convicted felon who served time serving on a criminal justice reform? I mean, it's funny, but it's sad. It's pathetic. It says here that we are proud that Until Freedom leaders have been chosen to serve on Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's transition team on committees for public safety and criminal justice, respectively. Wow. The fact that you would put somebody on such a low caliber is shocking to me. Maybe he could tell them how, criminals work and operate. Who knows? This is what they do. This is what you should look out for. Who knows? So this is a testament to our decades of work advocating on behalf of black and brown communities and our expertise in gun violence prevention, legislation, advocacy, and criminal justice reform. This is so stupid. We are building something different, is what they said. Yeah, of course you are. You're idiots. These morons. This is seriously what they have for us? This is the guy that's going to come in and save us? This is the guy that's going to prevent crime by putting criminals on his board? And look, I get it. People can change. People can reform themselves. Don't get me wrong. But it takes somebody who goes through lots of, obviously, I guess you would call it reform of themselves as a person in order to go out and do this. But look at this. It says here he faced up to 25 years. This is the Lenin guy again. Continued to deny he was involved and rebranded himself. He continued to deny he was involved in 2 different armed robberies where you were identified by the people that are victims. And rebranded himself as a community activist. just like Obama. Right? He's a community activist, right? Following his release from state prison. There he goes. He spent years volunteering as a so-called violence interrupter and also founded Rising Kings, a nonprofit group that teaches classes to inmates at Rikers Island. Yep. New York City. It's going to be the bottom of the barrel very, very soon, folks. Now, of course, critics have slammed this appointment, especially this whole transition team to this 20-member committee on criminal legal system, which will advise Mamdani on criminal justice policies. Yep. Again, I don't know how this Tish is going to work with Mamdani on this. Who knows how much say this guy will really have, of course. But again, it's just obviously troubling that you're putting actual felons who have a history of, breaking the law are being given the opportunity to help shape the future of New York City's criminal justice system. To me, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But this is the new wave. This is the communism. This is the, Gen Zers coming out now. Well, no, he's a millennial, I think. Mamdani the millennial. Yeah, that could be a new nickname for him. Mamdani the millennial. That's what he is. And, people love it. Especially the youths, the young people. They love this. Hey, a future criminal. Hey, you watch and see. You're going to see crime rates explode. And you're always going to be told, well, you got to give them a second chance. Hey, you give me a second chance. Look where I made it. I'm on the criminal justice reform transition team. Look at me. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You really can't. So, again, I told you before, crime is going to explode in New York City. Once this schmuck gets in office, it's going to happen. There's no other way to say it to you. Crime is going to explode. And it will, of course, be, if you oppose this, you're obviously a racist. You're, white supremacist. You just don't have the compassion to, deal with these, the youths. Before the show, I was looking at a video. It was in Los Angeles, of course. And a mob of, teens, right? They're teens. They're all teens, right? Should be in school, but they're out ransacking a 7-Eleven, destroying the business. They come in as a group, these mobs, they come in, they just take what they want. They knock over whatever they want, they take what they need, and they go. And no one's there to stop them. That's our youths today, right? So, nothing's going to change for the better in New York City. Just keep that in mind. It's not shocking. You're seeing people fleeing New York City already for Florida. They're leaving everything behind and getting out of there because it is done, folks. It is done. All right, let's move on to some foreign news. Let's see what's going on in geopolitics globally. This is in Haaretz. It says Palestinian Prime Minister warns Israel is making West Bank unlivable for Palestinians. We've known that for some time now. But the Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa says that Netanyahu's policies seek to undermine the Palestinian Authority and expand settlements, aiming to eventually convince the rest of the world there's no place for a Palestinian state. He warned that financial pressure, raids, and settler violence are making life unbearable for Palestinians in this region. Well, we've said this to you before, and we've seen that Jewish settlers are coming in. We've heard it from people like Bezalel Smotrich coming in and saying, hey, we're going to build new settlements. There's Israeli military raids, the people living there. You're seeing the destruction of churches, for example, primarily the St. George Church. And you're seeing, obviously, things like olive trees being burned down, what people produce. People are told they can't access water and things of that nature. So these things are a big problem. Obviously, there's murder and death and terror going on in this region, just like you're seeing in Gaza right now. Netanyahu's coming out saying he's ready for the second phase. What second phase? You didn't even uphold the first phase. And we're supposed to believe that he's ready to agree to the second half of what's supposed to happen? Who's overseeing this, by the way? We're still seeing people dying every single day in Gaza. The IDF behind this so-called invisible line is still killing people. And they're talking about disarming Hamas. Again, it's all mind-boggling that things are happening as is. Again, there's supposed to be a ceasefire in Lebanon. How's that working out? And again, Trump should come out and say, where is this Palestinian state going to be, by the way? Is it going to just be in Gaza? What about the West Bank? What do you say when the leaders of the Knesset say, we'll have settlements in the West Bank and Gaza? What do you say to that? And then what is the reaction by the Palestinians? How does this all work out? So Mustafa said there's an increasing recognition that the Israeli government's target is to make things unlivable. Even if you don't put them in buses and take them to the bridge on the border of Jordan, they thought people would volunteer to leave because things are very difficult. So what he's saying to you is that if they make things unlivable, people will just generally leave the region and they will come in and occupy the territory and simply annex it to the existing Israeli state. So he goes on to say in the article, Israel has severely tightened its control over the territory, this is the West Bank, setting up hundreds of barriers, severely restricting Palestinians' movement and announcing the biggest expansion of Jewish settlements in the West Bank. By the way, Trump came out and said this. He said that the Israeli government is not going to annex the West Bank. Where's Trump's outrage for this? When are we going to hold these people accountable, by the way? There's IDF raids and operations in the occupied territories that have killed nearly 1,000 people since October 7th, 2023. It says Netanyahu's coalition, which includes the far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich, who openly advocates for Israelis to annex inside the West Bank, has withheld customs revenue owed to the Palestinian Authority, which the Financial Times estimates to be somewhere between 11.64 billion shekels. Yeah. At the end of October, the Palestinian Authority's debts stood at 48.2 billion shekels, according to the Financial Times. Mustafa said that the Israeli government's actions were designed, among other things, to undermine the Palestinian Authority, and of course to destroy the notion of a Palestinian state, which again is the ultimate goal of this 21-point peace plan that the Gulf states and President Trump issued to both the Gazans and of course those inside the West Bank, and of course the state of Israel. How does this turn out? How does this work? How do you have a so-called peace plan in effect when you still have Gazans dying every single day? When you're supposed to have 600 food trucks enter every single day and it's been cut down to 150? How do you have the IDF still in this territory, still killing people? And then you're saying, well, we're ready for round two, the second phase of this peace plan. Well, what's going to happen? You've already come out and said you're not going to allow a Palestinian state. How do you think the people in the West Bank and Gaza are going to respond to this? And again, it's just mind-boggling to me that there's no one overseeing this. There's supposed to be a peace board in place of this, right? There's supposed to be some type of international board, right? Tony Blair's supposed to sit on it. President Trump's supposed to sit on it. Yet there's people dying every single day at the hands of the IDF. And we're talking about the ceasefire as if it was even upheld from day one. Again, it's mind-boggling to me. Anyways, Mustafa has gone on to say that the Palestinian Authority would do everything we can to hold elections, the first since 2006, but said that if there are any shortcomings in the Palestinian Authority, it is the responsibility of the leadership to continue to work towards delivering to our people, but we also have to admit that there are challenges to that. So the Middle East is still on fire, folks. Don't think that the ceasefire upheld it all. I mean, it hasn't. And again, I just point to the people dying every single day in Gaza. Look at how many people have died in the West Bank. I mean, look at what's going on. Now they're coming out and saying, hey, listen, they're making it unlivable for us to even be in this area, which we've lived in our entire lives. Is Donald Trump saying anything about this? Has he come out and said, we need to stop the killing? No one said a damn thing about this. And it bears importance. So what's the point of the ceasefire? If the point of the ceasefire was just to release the hostages, well, okay. The living hostages have returned back to Israel, and some have returned back to Gaza as well. But by and large, they're still Palestinian hostages. Not all of them were released. And there's still people getting killed every single day. There are still people starving every single day. And if you think life is unlivable in the West Bank, go look at Gaza right now, where 83% of it lie in ruins. So my point in all this is, who is holding these people accountable? Who are holding the Israelis accountable? Who's holding Hamas and the Palestinian Authority accountable? Where are the Gulf Arab states that signed on to this? That are witnessing this? Because right now it looks like Turkey and I think it might be Qatar. I'm not positive. I know one of them was Turkey, are dissuading Hamas from even trying to disarm. So again, I don't know how all this plays out. I really don't know. But all I can tell you right now is there's lots of suffering still going on in these regions, and nobody's saying a damn thing about it. That's what I don't understand. Nobody seems to care about it. Nobody's talking about it. And, we as people that want peace, want the bloodshed to stop, we should be up in arms saying, why is this not being upheld? Is it null and void? It's a legitimate question, right? What's going to happen to these people? Folks, again, thank you for being here as always. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Hope you learned a lot and hope you'll share it with some friends. All these articles, by the way, are going to be posted with the podcast. So, again, don't forget to keep your house in order. Make sure you're storing up food, water, ammo, money, gold, tools, supplements, anything you need to be self-sufficient. The change always starts in your home, folks. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, God bless.